Hello, welcome back to Diary of a Creator. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I am Victoria, and this is a channel for those bold souls and change makers who are wanting to break free of the bullshit to create a life of freedom and one that truly lights you up. So if my content resonates and the channel resonates, then I'd be grateful for any likes, shares, or subscribes to help me to grow this. So today I wanted to tackle a theme which, if freedom is one of your goals, then you need to listen to this one. And this has been unraveling for me, and is certainly one that I didn't fully understand at the beginning of the journey, just how much this was here for me. But it's codependency and really how it disrupts our ability to create freedom and freedom of choice, freedom of a life that we desire, all of these things, because codependency and power, obviously these themes kind of move through freedom. But really codependency, and I'll come on to this in terms of all of the different forms, which is why I never really thought or understood just how codependent I was, because I would have labeled myself as very hyper independent. But I wasn't. And to a degree, none of us are, because of the societal structures that we have in place. And the reason why I've kind of come into this one again, which is why I'm on here today, is through my gene keys. And so I love the gene keys. I love all of that work, and I dive into it a lot. And it's, if you haven't heard of it, it's really it's similar to human design, but it's very anchored into soul purpose and higher purpose. And I have a key that goes through my chart 3 times. And so I continue to go back to this one. And the shadow frequency of this, which is in essence, the anchors that block us from going forward for what we want, which is why I want to talk about this, because this is one that is huge, will be a huge blocker without us even realizing it. But the shadow in that key is codependency. And there are many forms of codependency. The most obvious one people will go to is relationships, and that can be all forms of relationships. We have codependency in our systems, in our food supply, all of anywhere where we in essence rely on something outside of us to give us what we need, there is a form of codependency there. And a lot of this, when you really break this down on the societal level, and there's a reason why it's set this way, because when we're in codependency, we are not in our power. We're giving our power away. And naturally, when you think of like it, just taking food system as one of like the broadest mechanisms of control, literally, if you have people controlling the food supply, and obviously food is a basic human need and we're all dependent on food, but we can only depend on the supply that of the person that has the food, or the organization, or I won't say too much around that. We are codependent on that source. And this is where we come unstuck, and this is where we come into problems. And these are massive societal issues. I'm not going to be tackling that today, because like that's lifetimes of work unraveling this. But where we need to get to is to become truly aware of where we are codependent in all shapes and form in our life, because what we then need to naturally be doing is starting to break that codependency. And the reason why we need to break that codependency is because it actually, if you think of creating and moving towards the life that you desire, any form of codependency is actually what I would call like a frequency disruptor. So you might be codependent on something. We'll come into details on this. And what it's actually going to do is either distort where you want to go. So you might have this, and then it starts to distort it, or it's totally taking you in a different direction because there's a fear there. There could be like a scarcity fear, if I can't get my need met, and all of this. But really it all boils down in a nutshell to the power. When we're codependent, our power for choices is not within, it's without. So we're giving our power of choice away to outside forces. And some of these right now are somewhat unavoidable, or if they are avoidable, there's a lot of energy and effort. And as I said, I'm not talking about those ones. I want to talk just more broadly around, particularly around relationships and other people and other people's opinions and certain dynamics that you might have playing up in your life where, without you realizing it, these connections are kind of distorting and pulling you away from creating the life that you actually want. And so, if freedom is a core value for you, then this is where a reflection needs to happen, because this is how we are not free, I guess. Where we're codependent, we become aware of that. We then become our independent power or choice. This is really our choice. It's our freedom of choice. But we are interconnected. So interdependent is the word that's used. And this is really where we're eventually going. But in order to do that, we need to see the very unhealthy codependent dynamics that run rampant in our relationships and our structures, because they are not serving us. They are taking power away. The moment we become aware of that is where we can start to pull the power back within. Now, we're always more susceptible to codependency in areas where we feel that we are lacking. And so for me, which I've been unraveling, I have have had, because as I said, this is unraveling in a big way, very codependent relationships with people in my life, mainly from family. And codependent in the way that their opinion and their energy and what they think and feel enmesh with me. And as I said, when we get like that, it disrupts the frequency and it holds us back without us knowing it, because we're too afraid of what these people that we're codependent with are going to do when we try and pull away and do something different. So I naturally have that, that has been unraveling for me. And the other area is in business, because I had deemed myself to know fucking nothing about building a business. And that's still kind of truthful, because I'm not like an expert in it. But what this actually ended up doing, because as a personality type, I don't like being told what to do. There's a reason for that. And I went back into, as I was a child, I was very independent learner right from a child. My mum even just recently told me that they used to find it weird, or they would try and like get me to, I don't know, work in groups or something. But I always did that. I had my most successful year at university, like academic achievement award, and I went to no classes, none. I went to none. So this is how I've always learnt. Yet when it came to business, an area where I deemed I was lacking, and this also happens with relationships and trusting myself in romantic relationships, because I've failed before, though I haven't failed, it's just feedback. I started opening myself up to a lot of opinion. And there was such codependency in this way, and that's even been unraveling even to last week, where in a lot of the coaching industry and the personal development industry, and watch out for this as well, because this work should only ever be teaching you how to be empowered. So how to make your own decisions, how to connect in to get your answer. It should never be telling you what your truth is. The moment anyone does that, fucking run, honestly. The power is off. It should never, ever, ever, ever be like that. But that happened to me multiple times in areas where I had deemed that this person had more knowledge than me. Now, issue with this is it totally disrupts my frequency of knowing where I'm going, and it's just ended up in a total and complete lack of clarity, confusion, direction. One, because you will hear a different thing from every person. It's just different things. Then you start to open your field up to all of these opinions about what you should be doing. And this will probably be familiar for a lot of people. And then you end up overwhelmed and you don't know, you're like, well, what do I do? Then you can get into the space where you have trusted someone and their opinion starts to become what you do. And this was happening to me. And obviously it didn't lead well because that's just not how, when you're doing a soul-led path, you are your guide. Yes, people will come in to help you, and yes, people will come in to guide you, but they should only be guiding you from the truth and be facilitating is the word rather than telling you what to do. And so the best way to think of codependency is its energy. And when you're when you're in your power, you are like this circle, another person, call this like relationship structure, whatever it is this. Now they can sit, they can relate, they can support still, give each other's needs, but they sit like this. They're two different energy sources. And when we're in this state, we have the ability to make choices through our own guidance and power. So everything we do is pulled within. We then attract what we need, which, yes, it might be someone to help and guide you, but you need to have that frame deep within before. Codependency is, in essence, either this one or this one is just totally trying to enmesh, and the energy gets like this. Basically, it's like the same. And the biggest issue with that is that will cloud your ability to understand what is your truth and what is not. And this is why when it comes to freedom and making a different path and choices, we cannot be in that energy because we're not going to actually receive or understand or have clarity on where we're going. So if you are in lacking clarity and direction, chances are you are listening or have quite a lot of outside opinion or options or ways to go. And that is completely overwhelming you. And it will, because there are always multiple opinions, multiple paths. They're not all your path, though. And so, really, where we need to get to, because this kind of energy will be pulling you in different directions, which is what it did with my business. I even went into a course about, and she only did Facebook. And I intuitively knew before I joined that program that Facebook's that's not a platform for me. I don't use it, and I don't think anyone my age and under uses it significantly either. But I still went into that program because I was like, oh, but she's got business knowledge that I don't have. And there's always that lack of like, oh, well, I don't have that, so I need this person. And you will have gaps of knowledge and things that you need to learn and understand, but you need to be making the decisions from an empowered place, not a place of lack. They're very, very different energies. And really, how do we spot codependency? Well, reflect on that. Reflect on all of the ways where someone else's opinion impacts you, where you tend to seek opinion. If you are in any relationship dynamics where, say, they are in a mood or energy, you start getting into the same mood or energy, that's an indication that the energies are combined. All of these things where there's almost a mirroring or an energy connection between them. But I would start mainly, given the theme of this and being freedom, is opinions. What opinions do you listen to? Where do you seek them? Because chances are there's some form of perceived lack in that area. And when we perceive the lack, you are going to be more susceptible to this, but we need to notice this and reflect on it. And how do we step out of this disempowered state? It's by learning energy sovereignty. And this is a practice, obviously, this is a practice of coming within. It's a practice of tuning your own intuition. So doing intuition practice and actually strengthening your trust in it and building your connection to it, and starting small. Don't do the heavy hitting questions, but really it's about starting to listen to that inner compass that you have. And that is really how we come out of codependency, first through really our choices. It's the choices that we decide to make, and whether we will probably, like, there are still ways that I am codependent, and it's very hard to not be. Let's take money as a system. Well, that was a form of breaking codependency too, actually, because corporate and the stable salary, there's a codependency on that. It gets to be like a form of stability, but it also keeps you chained. These are the things, like these, it's really, really layered, but just thinking of the opinions. And where we want to be is in a place that we're still relating, we're still using systems, we're still getting guidance from people, we're still getting support, but we are doing that from a place where we are empowered within. So we have received guidance, direction, support from within, and then who we need will appear, rather than us clutching outside, going, I need to know this because I don't have it, and pulling the wrong people into your sphere who are actually going to lead you away from where you're actually wanting to go. And because this is where the ego gets a bit trapped, is this. And so, yeah, that was a big topic, codependency. There is obviously many layers to this, and I could keep going on about this. Maybe I'll do another video. But really reflect on that. Where are all of the ways where you allow the external and opinions and all of that to be guiding how you feel, think, and act? Those are your sources of codependency, and we are all operating within this Truman Show. And we need to get ourselves out. And this is how we do it.